Hello. My hoodie! Today is gonna be a controversial. I need to start this out like I'm some extreme controversial drama channel. Hold on. Today is gonna be a controversial video. And as you guys know, I get a lot of hate here on this channel. And it's usually for opinions that differ from the yeah, it's usually for opinions that differ from the norm. And okay, I need to stop. Yeah, I agree. You're not supposed to be doing that though. I know, you just sit there and think about that for a minute. Today, I am gonna, it's really not that controversial in my opinion. Apparently, I'm gonna ignore you if you keep whining like that. Apparently, a lot of people have been finding this controversial. I personally don't, because it makes sense to me. I guess that's just me being trans and whatever, but like, you know, anyways, without context, this makes no sense. So today I'm going to be talking about Dylan Mulvaney. Bro, I'm so bad at last names. I apologize for probably botching that. I probably got it right no, I probably didn't get it right. Anyways, you know, I'm just gonna call her Dylan for right now, because, Excuse me. I'm sorry I look like a wet dog right now. I just took a shower because it's hot as hell outside because it's Florida and it's humid. Bro, literally I'm struggling right now. I have about $10 in my bank account. My tank is completely empty in my car. It takes like $35 to fill it up. And I lost my job the other day. Let me get into my introduction. Hello. For those of you who do not know, if you stumbled across this video and haven't seen my channel, thank God you have not seen my channel. There's like only 2 videos on there right now, but one of them I can't delete. That doesn't even matter right now. Anyways, so, hello. What is my name? Name is Mateo. I'm a trans man. That's not important, actually. You know, I exist, and I talk about things on this channel that affect me and affect my ability to live and affect other people who are like me. And you know, I just talk about things that I want to talk about because I feel like I have rights to opinions, and I do. For a fact, I do have rights to opinions. So these are one of my opinions. So for those of you who haven't heard of Dylan, I'm not going to pronounce her last name again. She is a trans woman who blogs, vlogs, I don't know what TikTok would be, who basically kind of shows her day-to-day life as a trans woman since she came out as trans. So she does this dominantly on TikTok, I believe. I do believe she also has a YouTube channel. I haven't looked at it. I know she's on TikTok, though. I saw a lot of her videos when I was on TikTok. I'm no longer on TikTok, thank God. That's basically who she is. And there's a lot of controversy around her. So, recently she got invited to Forbes. Oh my God, I don't know what these places are called. I live under a rock. Forbes. And if I pronounce that wrong, I don't actually give a shit right now. And I don't know what she spoke on. Probably trans experiences, I would imagine. Probably. I don't know. I haven't actually looked at it. I frankly don't care. So that's kind of where the controversy started. And the more I looked into the controversy, the more I realized it's a lot of just transphobia. Most of the controversy is coming from conservatives or feminists, and I say feminists because my personal opinion of feminism is that, you know, it's equal rights for all, which includes trans people, and so when feminists are just like suddenly all about women, it just, I don't know, it's just, that's not where I go. I don't go there. First of all, I'm gonna say this. Yes, I am a trans man. and I stand by that. However, I think I have every right to talk about women's experiences because I've been experiencing life as a woman basically my entire life, and I still do because I haven't physically transitioned. So personally, in my opinion, I believe I have the right to talk about this, and if anyone comes at me and is like, oh, you're being transphobic, no, I don't care if other trans men talk about women's experiences or if they don't. Like, if they personally don't want to, I do not give a shit. I'm not here to say that all trans men should talk about women's experiences or that all trans women should talk about men's. Like, I literally do not give a shit. Personally, in my opinion, because so much of my trauma comes from being a female, I personally prefer to talk about those topics. I'm not saying that every trans man has a right to talk about female experiences because I, quite frankly, I think everyone has a right to talk about their experiences. And in this case, a lot of my experiences revolve specifically around the fact that I was born female. And so I think I have a right to talk about them. So just clear that up. No, I'm not saying any weird shit, and I'm not being transphobic, or I'm not validating gender. I'm validating experiences, specifically mine, because no one does that for me. God, I'm being a little dramatic right now, and I don't actually care. That's okay. If I said that wrong, which I probably did, my apologies, and tell me that I said that wrong. I dare you. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding! I'm just gonna talk about what has been said, what's been going on, basically. I'm sorry, I need movement or I'm gonna die. So, this is my movement. Deal with it. Some of the controversy that's been going around, been talked about, is that basically people are saying that Dylan is not actually trans, that she is just basically acting trans to, some of this I don't even want to say because it's quite frankly disgusting. I've heard a lot of things. I've heard, I'm just going to go through it, and don't think because I'm going through it that I agree with any of this. I personally find some of it extremely disgusting. And I think you'll understand why when I say it. But some people have said that she acts trans because it turns her on. Other people have said that she acts trans because it gives her a sense of comfort, which is ironic to me because I feel like when you're not accepting your transness, from my experience, when you're not accepting your transness, you tend to be very uncomfortable. So when you finally kind of when you finally start to like but when you start like accepting it and stuff like that, and you start what's the word I'm looking for? Presenting, I guess works. Presenting yourself as you want to. You would get comfortability out of that generally because it's kind of, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people tend to associate being trans with uncomfortability because that's kind of what a lot of people like me, that's kind of what a lot of people tend to associate trans with, dysphoria and stuff like that, which is a total another topic that I don't even want to get into, so don't say that I have an opinion on that, because until I talk about it, you don't know my opinion. There's some of that that's been said. Other people have said that she is mocking females, cis females specifically, and a lot of the people that I've seen talk about this are conservatives. Y'all can ignore that. My camera was dying, so I had to move it. The usual. Hold on. Where was I? I was talking about Dylan, what people were saying about her. I was ranting about feminism. That is unimportant right now. So, basically, I kind of wanted to break this down a little bit and talk a little more about my opinion. Hold on. Yeah. I just wanted to talk a little bit about, things that I've seen said, breaking stuff down, my opinions on the whole matter, everything like that. The first thing that I kind of wanted to talk about was that from what I've seen, okay, so a lot of people were basically upset at Dylan for a video that she made. I want to say it's 80 something, but it probably isn't. But basically, there was this video that she made where she was hiking, I believe. I want to say she was hiking. And she was, I don't know, in my opinion, from my personal view of the video, she was just acting like herself. But I guess a lot of people were upset about it because it was an inaccurate representation of what females are like, which I find pretty against the feminist movement, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. Coming from a feminist standpoint, I found it very hilarious for people to be upset about that, because any feminist should know that any woman who presents themselves is presenting a woman because they identify as a woman. And, like, I don't know how to explain that to people. It's like if a woman is acting more, more masculine, let's just use masculine and feminine terms right now. If a woman is acting more masculine, they're still a woman. If a woman is acting more feminine, they're still a woman. If a woman wants to go out and make a career for herself and not get married, not have kids, etc., she's still a woman. If she wants to stay at home and have kids and, make food for her husband and whatever else, she's still a woman. Like, that, in my opinion, should be common knowledge. I guess apparently it isn't. And so when I saw that video of Dylan, I was just like, oh, she's acting like herself. That just, okay. And I know from my personal experience, trying to present yourself when you're first coming out as trans can be very intimidating and very scary, because you want people to accept you, but at the same time, you want to be yourself. And so it's kind of this, I don't know, like, there was one thing that I struggled with my entire life, honestly, with masculinity, where it was like I had this stereotype in my head that men don't need help. And so I have a very hard time with opening up about things. I have a very hard time with, like, if I can't carry something, I'll be salty about it, or even if I can't carry something, I'll still convince everyone that I can. That's something that I struggle with because I've seen that stereotype about men, so in order to feel more masculine, I kind of took on that stereotype. And I like to kind of call it let me just restart that sentence. I like to kind of call it falling victim to stereotypes. It's like it happens with everyone, not just trans people. Women can fall into this stereotype because they've been told for so long that they have to be a certain way. I know cis men fall into stereotypes a lot because it's so common for people to kind of fit them into a stereotype. And so if, especially with not newer trans people, but people who are just coming out as trans, or they're starting to discover themselves as trans, it's very easy to kind of amplify these stereotypes, in my opinion, because you just want to be seen as the gender that you identify as. And I feel like a lot of people don't really think that much about that aspect of it. I feel like a lot of people tend to think that when you're trans, you still act the way that you are as, like, your personality, but you just think that you're the opposite gender, which is not the case. I know for me, personally, in my experience, it has been a struggle to not fall victim to stereotypes of men, because I just want to be seen as a guy. And I've broken out of it a lot more, but it's still sometimes when I don't fit stereotypes of a man, I get very dysphoric and it's very uncomfortable for me. I feel like trans people tend to have a lot more of a harder time with that. And so if you were to see a trans woman acting more dramatic, I guess, or something like, I wouldn't even call it dramatic, just more, amplified, or more expressive. I don't see that as an inaccurate representation of a woman, because if that's how they are really, this is kind of how I see it. If there was a cis woman, right, or a cis female, whatever you want to call it, if there was a cis woman and she was acting extremely dramatic, blah, 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 no one would sit down and make a video talking about how that is inaccurate representation of a female, and she is... No. My dog was trying to swallow not swallowable things. Anyways, as I was saying, if a cis woman were to act really dramatic, no one would sit down and make a video about how that is inaccurate representation of a female. And I think this really boils down to transphobia in a lot of ways, is that Dylan is just trying to express herself. She's still, she's still coming into figuring out what it is to be trans, figuring out who she is as a person, etc., 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 which is fine. I'm still doing that. And I think a lot of people are not giving her the grace that is needed. She's gonna hugely develop, in my opinion. From my experience, I believe she's going to hugely develop and probably hugely change, in a sense. Just from the fact that, for one, she's on the internet and no one has... Like, what you guys see of me on the internet is, like, I don't know, not even 1% of who I am as a person. So for one, you're only seeing part of her because she's on the internet. But for two, you're gonna... In discovering that you're trans, you're gonna have a kind of like a roller coaster almost of your personality. And that's okay. It's, when you discover anything about yourself, whether it's, you're trans, you're gay, you're traumatized, you're so many things about yourself. Anything that you discover about yourself, 99% of the time is going to end up in kind of a roller coaster of emotions and actions until, hey, don't eat stuff that you're not supposed to, until you start coming into kind of your comfortability or your comfortable state of who you are as a person. And that's kind of where I believe Dylan is, in my opinion, from what I've seen. I haven't seen more of her recent stuff, so she could have developed a lot more since the older stuff that I've seen of her videos. But the truth is, I don't think she is being dramatic purposefully or being amplified or expressive purposefully to mock women. I believe she's acting that way because she's trying to figure out who she is as a person. You see this a lot of times in preteens, where they just suddenly start acting really dramatic and really expressive, like very suddenly, because they're trying to figure themselves out. And I know that probably has some kind of negative connotation to it, because a lot of people hate preteens, which, valid, they can be really mean. But, I don't find that a bad thing. When you're trying to figure yourself out and being trans and, becoming who you are in your gender and coming out you're gonna go through that stage all again where you're figuring out your personality, because you have to change so much of yourself when you're trans, because people have so many expectations. Whether or not you want to change yourself, you're gonna change, because so many people have so many expectations and ideas of you. It's gonna weigh on you and you're gonna react to it. It's just nature. It's how humans work. And so when Dylan is acting a way that people would perceive as ingenuine or dramatic or a bad representation of females, for one, I don't believe she can be a bad representation of women unless she was purposely doing harm to women as a whole. So, there are people, cis women included, who can just do a lot of harm to women by saying, one of the main things that you hear is I'm sorry, you can go up onto my bed if you want. You can't really sit here right now. Females are dramatic. You'll hear that a lot. And that would be bad representation of women. If a woman sat down in front of a camera and was like, oh, my belief and my experience is that women are dramatic, and here's blah, 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 blah. That would be bad representation of females. To just be yourself, no matter what it is, if you're being yourself, your true, genuine, authentic self, it is not bad representation of anything. And if, like, being yourself without doing inherent harm. And Dylan isn't doing any harm. From what I've seen, she is very unproblematic and has done nothing that, in my opinion, from what I've seen, has been worthy of half of the hate that she has received just for being trans. And I don't really know how to describe this, but I think as a trans person, it's really discouraging to see so many people come online and misgender her and be like, this is just a man who is acting like a woman as, and this kind of, it goes back to men, in my opinion, cis men have so much more, they're not allowed to express themselves. And I think when people inherently see someone as a man, which for one is transphobic to Dylan, but when people see someone inherently as a man, they stuff them into this box of you can't express yourself, that's bad. And so in like Dylan's case, because so many people unfortunately see her as a man, they will inherently try to shove her in this box. I know it's discouraging. They'll try to shove her in this box of you're not allowed to express yourself because it's wrong or it's bad or it's, it's inaccurate representation. And it's like, I don't think, it's so weird to me how these people cannot see that, one, you're transphobic, and two, you are just, like, kind of adding to the stereotype that men cannot express themselves or that they're not allowed to. Anyways, that's kind of my opinion on the situation. Not everyone is going to have the same opinion as me, and that's okay as long as it's not an opinion that is inherently hurting people. But, like, I think watching the controversy go down, it's really discouraging to me to see how many people, like even trans people have talked about it, just how many people are willing to hurt someone simply because they're expressing themselves in a way that is not seen as appropriate to the general public. And I think that's another thing. There's so many things that play in here. It's like there's transphobia, there's, I want to call it sexism, but there's this idea that you have to act a certain way in public in order to be seen as, acceptable. There's also some trans people that I've seen who just can't accept that people have other experiences. And it's really discouraging. And I wouldn't say this is particularly a problem in the trans community because in the grand scheme of things, I've seen very few trans people actually talk about it. I think it's mainly a problem with the conservatives and feminists. So, I don't know. There's not much that I can really say. I think I've given my opinion. I've given my point of view. If you have anything to add on to it, feel free to. Hey, don't touch stuff. But that's kind of my opinion. That's kind of what I see what's going on. And, that's just kind of where I stand, I would say. But yeah, if, I doubt Dylan is going to see this, but if you do, I'm sorry for all the hate that you're getting. And, I think it's people who are just being kind of uncaring of how others express themselves. So, that's just my opinion. Yeah, that kind of wraps up the video. So, I hope you got something out of this. Please stop touching me. I don't want to be touched right now. Yeah, go somewhere else. That kind of wraps up the video. Obviously the comments are always open to discussion, so if you have anything to say, if you have anything to add on, if you want to argue, go to the comments. I will probably read them because if there's arguments, I love drama. But also if you have anything to add on, I find that really interesting and I love education. So yeah, that wraps up the video.